prepare the budget.
Ooh.
Straight into it. And so just what, and Kevin, you can elaborate on this, just using a formula for, all right, well, what are the key expenses and how do you equate a student value to that?
Okay, so if we go through the expenses down the left-hand column, you see your rental or mortgage payments. You've got to pay something to somebody. Your wages for your staff, obviously, and that includes all your superannuation, or everything that entails, and that includes their, you probably elaborated a bit further, staff training, etc. Your running costs are all your utilities and your phone, your electricity, all that sort of stuff. That's your core running costs. You know what they are. Consumables, well, that entails like photocopier stuff, but more about uniforms and stuff that you're going to on-sell. You've got to have a budget for that in the consumables, because they're the things that are going to be turned over regularly. So they can impact on your budget. If you buy, I don't know, $2,000 worth of equipment and you haven't really got that in the budget for that month, that can throw things out. Your marketing, you need to, if you not at least 10% of what you earn is on marketing, you're not really marketing. And an emergency fund, what happens if your building gets flooded or smoke inhalation, or there's a murder, something happens nearby, they close you down for a week or two, what are you going to do? You might have to go and hire a hall just for that period of time, or, you need, while you're waiting for your insurances to come good, and in your running cost is obviously your insurances as well. All your insurances are included in that. So yeah, we're going to come to my tuition fee in a sec. So we'll answer that question. So that's your fund. So the budget is how many students you need for each one of those. So first of all, you calculate what each one is. As I said, most of them are you can pretty much pinpoint how much they're going to be, and then you go to the students. So have we got my slide with my structure there, or was that later on, or that maybe tomorrow or something?
Yeah, hang on. I think we cover this in Success by Design. The fee structure, tuition fees and so forth. Yeah. So we'll Adam, we'll cover that in depth tomorrow.
Yeah.
Side note, completely just something that you can pick up. Kevin gives these little gold pieces of nuggets in analogies and stories. You'll hear them come through. I did try and capture a few, and so you'll see them highlighted on these slides. They're pretty good to print out, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
So just little key points, and I find what I like about the way Kevin talks is just these things cement ideas because the way they are delivered. And so we just wanted to highlight them, but I just wanted to point it out that there's a lot of these going around. So just pick up the little nuggets. It helps keep it fresh in the analogies, keeps it fresh in the mind. All right. So just back on this. So I guess, Kevin, if we had to give a bit of an example, and I know we need clarification on the tuition fees, but so we'll get onto that. But what do you how do you go about this, give or take?
Okay, for
and
sure.
You go from the top to down.
So just you need to have a budget. You need to have a budget money, a lump of money that covers all those costs for the first 6 months. So you've got no students, but you need the money to cover all those costs for the first 6 months, right? Now, obviously, you're going to have students coming in, and so that's where. Remember earlier we spoke about 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Obviously, that breaks down backwards from there. So you need to cover the costs of all your rent, your staff, aggressive marketing. You need to have a clear budget if you're going to borrow the money for your lending institution. So in your initial fit-out costs, that is setting up the facility how you want it with your signage and mats and decos and, banners and whatever, you include your first 6 months in that budget, and then you set. And this is where I see people fall short, and I've previously we've had some of our people before we got this part right, is that I don't let them start unless they've got 6 months worth of money to cover themselves. Yeah, so typical fit out budget, Chris, is if you want to go raw, you can just put mats down and make sure you've got a good toilet facility and a little area for storage. And you can do that for around the 30K. You can spend as much as you like, but on average it's about 90,000 for a good setup. I have mine set up in a way. I have a separate office. We have a room for people to sign up. We have staff rooms. We have viewing rooms. We have TVs. We have, it looks pretty nice. And so we want to make sure it's, if you're going to charge a premium price, you want to provide a premium facility. So but at a base level one, about 25, 30K, that really covers all your mats, your signage, and just your sort of a raw facility. When I first started training, we trained on the veranda of a church hall, concrete slab in the middle of winter, and it was usually about -5 degrees Celsius. We were either madder then or people have got softer. I'm not sure, but that's another discussion another day. But, very different times. But anyway, back to this. So how you work that out is it depends what you're going to charge. So your rent should be around 25 to 30 students, and the rest should be, your wages might be maybe 10 students. It's sort of hard until you get the exact dollar figures for filling in the blank. But generally you need around 60 students to cover your costs, raw costs. So if you can get 50 people on a trial and 40 of those join before you even kick off, well, you're way in front.
There you go. And I guess the student numbers are good because we're all in different parts of the world. So, we're talking Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Chris, New Zealand dollars is going to be a bit different, Canadian, US dollars, etc. So, yeah, I guess it's good. Using the student numbers is a good benchmark, and that'll give you a good idea of sort of where you are with your fees. And you could always look at more or less. I wish it was that level.
It's hard, as you said, income, difference in pricing and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, when we explain our fee structure a bit more in tomorrow, I think it'll bring a bit more clarity to it, and it all ties in a bit more.
Oh, perfect. Anyone got any more questions on the budget system? This session is a little bit shorter, and tomorrow we'll get into more of the details, your success by design plan. Location analyzer, obviously this is something you're going to have to go through once you start pinpointing exactly which location you got your eye on and have done your research with the Bureau of Statistics, etc. Weighing up your options to rent versus own, and just getting your budget numbers down. Again, you just go for a rough draft, getting some numbers down specifically first. That's going to give you a good indication of where you're going to have to be, and it does eliminate a bit of risk, right, Kevin? Knowing exactly where you're going for. What's been most valuable for you out of this session? If you could share a couple of insights, what did you get from this? And then we can just open up for Q&A. So what's been most valuable for you and why? What did you get from this dollar per student ratio? Perfect. Student numbers as a guideline for cost. Tom, how to screen venues. The checklist makes it simple. Perfect. Checklist on venue. A lot of confirmation that I've been doing more right than wrong. That's good. Yeah, and if you've got a lot of the steps in motion, it's always good to just look for those key points, right? Those key distinctions. Like, all right, well, what's the gold hidden in between a lot of what are we discussing? All right, cool. The guy, all things we need to consider for our new location. Natalie has made me reanalyze our venue and where we're at. Perfect. So, yep, you're not opening a second location, reassess. And the reassessment, I think, is really going to pay off if we start looking at module 5 and 6, especially when we look at organic marketing approach and becoming the go-to martial arts school in your area.